Hello and welcome back to the Cashmere couch, where it is becoming a tradition for me to not sit on my couch. If you are new here, my name is Tulasi, and this is where we discuss the magic and the mayhem of motherhood. Now, today, we are discussing women's health again, and in particular, women's health postpartum, women's health that has got to do with the reproductive system, because I've realized that our health as women is primarily governed by hormones. And I did talk a little bit about the hormones that get affected when you avoid sleep. Something as simple as sleep can just knock your balance off. If you're interested, you can check out my previous video. I never know where to point, so it's somewhere over here. For now, I thought I would make a quick and short video about the womb. So, womb health in many ancient traditions has been something that they don't really talk about, but they've given a lot of importance to ensuring that the womb is protected. And I went through something pretty recently that inspired me to do this video. So grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's talk. If you are from Southeast Asia, and maybe in other parts of the world that I don't really know much about when it comes to traditions, you would know that there was a lot of emphasis on postpartum women binding their tummy area. And I did it too during my confinement for both my children. But after 40 days, I stopped. And then I went back to my regular diet, my regular way of being. And I didn't understand how that binding really would affect me. So I thought, once you give birth, your uterus, which is essentially supposed to be like a really tiny thing, gets blown up to more than 5 times its size, and it pushes all the other organs around. And that is the permanent way it is for at least 10 months. Okay. And immediately after you give birth, the womb just doesn't shrink back to its original size like that. You need to help it to do it. And in a lot of cases, you see women with protruding tummies. There's actually a medical term for it. I'll figure that out and I'll put it somewhere here. This happens when your muscles have actually weakened to a point where they don't like get tight again. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I personally experienced some issues with the entire abdomen, and the answer to rectifying it, or the way that I rectified it, was actually by binding my abdomen. So I'm going to share some experiences with you. I went back to work postpartum, like 4 months postpartum, 3 months postpartum, 3.5 months postpartum, okay, after having my first baby. And I remember distinctly that I was running for the bus because I was late and I didn't want to miss that bus. And when I ran, like, that was the max level of stress, level of exercise that I had given to my body physically after giving birth. And I remember I was so shocked when I took my first few steps because everything inside my body was jiggling. And that was when I became a little bit more in tune to my body, and I realized that nothing was as tight as it was before. And I kept thinking that, having a baby just ruined everything inside, and I couldn't understand how some women managed to bounce back and, looked like they had everything in. And for a really long time, I struggled with just feeling loose, and that completely threw me off in terms of being in sync with my body. Like, I had always known my body, and then at this point I was like, I didn't even know what was looking back at me in the mirror. So I did some research to the whole situation. I did some research into the whole situation, and I realized that in ancient cultures, the binding continued post confinement. So I used to think how easily women would get pregnant. There are so many of our ancestors who had like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 children easily back to back, and they had no issues with, all of these. I also had a little bit of pain. So this is about 10, 11 months postpartum after my first baby. I had a bit of pain, like at the abdomen and particularly at the vagina. But what I didn't understand was that there was actually a prolapse that I could almost feel. So when I would go to pee and I would clean up, I could just feel like there was something extra heavy inside the vagina. I didn't understand what it was, and when it got to a point where it was almost painful, like it was painful, but it wasn't like I wasn't traumatized. I was just, it was weird. It was not something that I had experienced before, right there. And sex was also painful, actually. And so my husband realized something was wrong. I realized something was wrong. And luckily, I was working with a few people who had like multiple babies. And one of them recommended this masseuse to me. So she said that like this masseuse, this traditional Malay lady who later on I found out picked up her skills or got her skills from her mother, who in turn got it from her mother, who had helped to deliver a lot of babies when Singapore was still, a village basically. And I contacted her and I said, I'm so sorry, but I'm in pain. Would it be okay for you to come down and, take a look? And I'm someone who believes in these ancient stuff, that these people who have a gift, they can look into things that even modern science can't find out, so I really, wanted her to come in, and she came in the very next day. She was kind enough to slot me in, and she came in and she instantly told me, like, she had a feel, and she told me that my uterus had dropped. So scientific research, right? The uterus basically drops if you don't take care of it. How do you take care of it? I'll talk about it in a while. If you don't take care of it and you just live your life the way you did before you had a baby, the chances of your uterus dropping is pretty high. And why it drops is because basically it got heavy and it is trying to shrink back to its normal size, but it can't. So it's still kind of heavy. It's bigger than it was before. All the other organs that was supporting its position before you had a baby are now have now moved away. The muscles surrounding the womb, the muscles that are supposed to keep everything in place, are now weakened because of the long period of time that it took, the gestational period, the time that it took for the baby to develop. The muscles have not gotten a chance to go back to normal. So everything is trying to get back to normal, but you haven't helped it. And so naturally, the womb just sinks lower and lower. And maybe 1, 2, 3 years postpartum, when everything is finally back to normal, the position of the womb is not normal. So that's basically what happens. And so I didn't know any of this. And when she told me that, she would assist me in bringing the womb up, I was terrified because I have ever heard of people talking about it and I've been told that it's very painful. And I had no idea how she was going to massage me on the surface and get something as deep as the womb to, get back to its natural position. But when she did it, like, she's skillful. Like I said, she learned her stuff from her mom, who learned it from her grandmother. And she always would tell me that it is a gift. Like, not every random person who is a masseuse can actually do something like this. And she herself has assisted with confinement massages and women's health via massages for years and years and years. So she did it, and it was almost painless. But the thing is, I could feel the womb being brought up, like every time she did it. So she got me to lie on my back, and I had to keep my knees up, and she just massaged me. And before I realized that she was about to do it, so I was just in a very relaxed mode, right? And then she just pulled it up, and it felt like a piece of jelly that was connected to my body just slowly sliding up. And she did it a couple of times, and then she said, your womb is okay. 3 weeks after that, I got pregnant with my second child. If infertility is a problem, there are a lot of other reasons why, but one reason could possibly be your womb health. We're also talking about other things like hormones and other stuff, but it could be that your womb is not in the best position. I was trying for my second baby like easily 4 to 5 months before this incident happened, and it was always negative, right? 3 weeks after this massage, I got pregnant, and it made me think so much. But even at that point, no one had told me about binding. No one had told me about pelvic floor exercises. So when I spoke earlier about the muscles being very relaxed, it takes time for them to firm up and get back to the position where they are supposed to be, which is to hold everything in. You need to assist your body in recovering. So if you try to go back to a lifestyle that you had before having babies, it doesn't exactly work the same way with your body anymore. You need to first of all understand that your entire body has gone through a major change. Things are not going to be the same again. Okay, so I didn't yet understand the importance of binding until very recently when I experienced not pain, but I just felt like my abdomen was just, I don't know, I just had a feeling. It wasn't painful this time. I just felt like something was weird. And so I called her in again. This time I am 2 years postpartum. Okay. And when she came in, she did my legs, and she always starts with the legs, right? So she did my legs, and then she said, I can't figure out why it is that you're like very tight. Something is off. And then she went from the legs to my womb. So she turned me around, she did my womb. And that was when she said, your womb, your uterus has dropped so much. And that explains why you've been having your fatigue, your pain, everything is linked. Okay. And I was like, whoa. And then she did that pulling thing again. This time I felt it from very low below coming up. And I realized like it's a thing. It's not something that they're faking. If women in the past knew about this, not science backed, but they knew about it and there were traditions to help to preserve the health, the womb health, then, that's something that we could take a few lessons from. So I went to find out about binding, and this time I asked her, and she told me. So my question to her was this: how is it that, women in the past had so many kids? And she said, simple, look at all of the ancient traditions. There was always binding, and they would keep the binder on for like life. And so I started doing it. I don't know if I'm pregnant yet with baby number 3, fingers crossed, but I started doing it. And let me tell you, it has improved my overall health so much. I am able to notice the difference in backaches, in cramps that I usually get when I'm about to have my period, in my overall, like, my lethargy is not as crazy as it used to be. So in helping the womb to stay in place, I've also allowed for it to improve my reproductive health, which has also improved my hormonal health. And it's visible overall. Like, I can see it. Okay. The other thing that I read about was abdominal muscular exercises. So exercises that assist with your abdominal muscles to not be so weak anymore. If this is like a mental picture in your head, your womb is supported by the structures around it. So if all of the structures around it have been pushed away during your pregnancy, then now, in order for you to assist in their healing, you got to try and see if you can strengthen them. Of course, if you've had a C-section, Even for postpartum massages, if you've had a C-section, there is a specific period of time, 4 to 6 weeks, that you need to wait before you do anything to your womb because of all the cuts that have been made and all the layers, including the uterus. So you don't touch it until you're okay, the stitches have healed and stuff like that. But if you've had a normal vaginal delivery, then you can always start with the binders and then just go for it. Of course, speak with your doctor, your medical professional. If you have someone like I did, this lady who has experience with a lot of people, even she said, for C-sections, we don't do all of this immediately. You allow the body to heal, because what has happened is like a creation of multiple wounds. You got to let that heal before you focus on the wound, which is on the inside. So get your advice from the appropriate people. I'm just sharing with you what has worked for me, because I had a normal vaginal delivery. I've said this before, I am very afraid of C-sections. So to all the mothers who've done it, hats off to you. And so Kegel exercises, right? I once had a friend who told me that she gave birth to both her boys in Ireland, I believe, or no, France. And she was there to, she followed her husband. Her husband was working in France, and she was made, like, it was mandatory after delivering her baby for her to go back for appointments where they would make her do Kegel exercises, which is basically you focusing on the muscles that are around the womb, and also like at your vagina. So what you do is, when you want to pee and then you have to hold it in and you're holding it in really bad, you constrict the muscles down there. That's exactly what Kegel exercises are. And when you do it while you're lying down with your knees up, your feet firmly on the floor, it helps to strengthen everything all the way up inside at the womb. So this is something that I feel like is not spoken about enough. If you care about your womb health, you care about like your vaginal health, all of it is connected, then you should be doing Kegel exercises. So I'm pretty sure there are many videos online that you can refer to, but know that this is important. So besides binding and Kegel exercises, what else can you do to help with the healing of your womb postpartum? I would recommend resting. I know it's easier said than done. I've spoken about this just in my previous video when we talked about rest, we talked about sleep, how that helps with your hormonal balances, but it's really very important. If you can, just figure out a way to make sure you have your rest, especially when you're freshly postpartum. If it has been a while, your kids are growing up, it's not going to be easy because you're going to be like, mommy, 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 mommy. You're going to hear that every time. But do find ways to rest, and self-care is also a way of showing your body that you care and that you're resting, because rest is honestly the best form of healing. If any of that resonated with you, or if you feel like this is information that you should pass on to someone, do share this video, consider subscribing to the Cashmere Couch, and I will see you next week. I'm not going to promise Sundays anymore, but I'll see you next week. Bye bye.